Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and we are taking a look at my predictions for what we are going to see with the 2021 NHL season, as the division realignments will be made. My predictions in this video. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, guys, want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below, and let's take a look at my projected redivision alignment of the NHL. Alright guys, so as usual, I want to give a quick plug to our Instagram and Twitter handles at goalline_hockey. Links will be in the description down below, as well as playing throughout this video. And make sure to check out our other YouTube channel at Goal Line Sports, where we talk about all things college football. I'm probably going to start putting other stuff on that channel as well, but if you want to see weekly previews as well as highlights of the past couple of weeks, make sure to check that out. Alright, so let's get into the video. So the 2021 NHL season is going to look quite different than we've seen in the past, as is 2020 looking pretty different than what we've seen before. I think 2021 is going to be, unfortunately, somewhat similar, just hopefully a little bit better than 2020, because this was a rough year for most people. Well, we're going to be taking a look at the potential realignment of the NHL divisions, as I have 5 divisions here. Now, you may be wondering, what are you doing? Why are you having 5 different divisions? How does that even work? What are you doing? Okay, so you got to remember, the first thing here is that you're going to have 7 teams in the Canada division, which completely throws everything off, because everybody from Vancouver all the way to Ottawa is going to be in the same division, because there is the whole Canada division. And that Canada division contains the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Ottawa Senators, as well as the Montreal Canadiens on the Ontario eastern side of Canada. In the Midwest, you've got Edmonton, Calgary, and Winnipeg. And then obviously on the deep West Coast, you've got the Vancouver Canucks in that all-Canadian division. So that's going to be an interesting division, because now you see a division where Boston and Toronto are not in the same division. Boston and Montreal not in the same division. So it's going to change things up quite a lot. And the good thing is we're probably going to see some more Battle of Albertas, more Edmonton and Calgary action, more Toronto and Montreal, which is always a good rivalry. Toronto and Ottawa. How much has Ottawa improved compared to some of their counterparts there in Canada? We're going to see that this offseason, as well as Patrick Laine going up against Austin Matthews more, as they will be in the same division. And not to mention Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid. So a couple of pretty big games that we could be seeing more star power head-to-head in Canada, in that Canadian division. So then I go back to, this is more of a throwback to the rest of the league, because you've got 4 United States divisions. You've got the Northeast Division, which contains the Boston Bruins, the Buffalo Sabres. You got the two Pennsylvania teams, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and then the New York Islanders and the New York Rangers. So now you may be wondering, all right, so the Devils are out of that division. You're right. Unfortunately, the Devils do not make it in this division, and you got to see the Southeast Division, because that's the next division. That's quite interesting. But again, we're looking at a division here. It's kind of a throwback to the Patrick Division, where you have the Islanders, the Rangers, the Flyers, the Penguins, all in the same division, because you got to keep the 2 New York teams together. You got to keep the 2 Philadelphia teams, or why do I keep saying the Philadelphia teams? The 2 Pennsylvania teams together, and then Boston and Buffalo, who have a decent rivalry as well up in the Northeast, so they lump right into that category as well geographically. So there's a pretty good division overall. Obviously, more action between the Islanders and the Rangers, always good. More of a Keystone State rivalry between Philly and Pittsburgh. Again, another great rivalry. And obviously, the Rangers and Pittsburgh, the Islanders and Pittsburgh, all these teams have rivalries with each other. Boston and Buffalo kind of get lumped into this division because they aren't in that division with Toronto and Ottawa and Montreal, which is a shame. But this is still, they could maybe build a little bit of banter with some of these more metropolitan teams down in Pennsylvania and New York, and I think that would be pretty solid. Might even build up the rivalry between the Islanders, the Rangers, and the Buffalo Sabres, the 3 considered New York sports teams. So that would be pretty interesting. So now we move on to the Southeast Division, as you have these teams containing the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Florida Panthers, the Carolina Hurricanes, the Washington Capitals, the Nashville Predators, and the New Jersey Devils. Now this is very interesting because you've got the Devils lumped into there because they are no longer a part of that Metro division with the Islanders and the Rangers. And then you also have the Nashville Predators who move over from the Western Conference to the Eastern Conference as we keep the, as you may, remember back in the day when Atlanta moved up to Winnipeg, there was a re-division alignment, as obviously Winnipeg should not be in the Southeast Division, which they were at the time when they were down in Atlanta. It made sense to be in the same division with teams like the Lightning, the Hurricanes, the Capitals, the Panthers. But once they moved up to Winnipeg, they were still in that division for a year before they switched it. Detroit was always in the Western Conference. That switched, so they moved over to the Eastern side. Obviously, Detroit is in a weird spot because of the time zone difference. But obviously, that was a bit disappointing because the rivalry between teams like Chicago was a little bit lost. And we'll get into that. But Nashville goes to the Eastern Conference, and that makes things quite interesting. Obviously, you have to keep the two teams down in Florida together. Easy, Tampa Bay and Florida. Carolina and Washington, based off of geography, they get in there as well technically as Nashville and New Jersey. Now, Nashville definitely takes a little bit of a loss here because they are in the Central Time Zone, which really hurts them. They are the only team in the Central Time Zone out of these other 5 teams, so that is something to consider. But because of how stacked the North Central Division is, we were not able to add Nashville into that division, and that way we have about 6 or 7 teams in each division. So moving on to that North Central Division, that is the next division as we start to move to the Western Conference. So now from the North Central Division, and the next division I will be talking about will be in the Western Conference. So starting things off, guys, the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Detroit Red Wings shift over. They move out of the Atlantic, they move out of the Metropolitan, and move into the North Central Division in the NHL. As well as a couple of other teams, you've got the Minnesota Wild, the Chicago Blackhawks, the St. Louis Blues, and this team kind of gets lumped in there, but the Dallas Stars. So now you've got a division where you've got Columbus and Detroit, who are pretty close geographically. Again, they're in the Eastern Time Zone. Now they get lumped into the Central Time Zone. So maybe what you see is you see Nashville come into that Central Time Zone, and then maybe one of or both of Columbus and Detroit move into the Southeast Division just so they stay on the East Coast. But based off of geography, we're going based completely off geography, based off of rivalries. This is what we came up with. Now, obviously, for Nashville, they lose the rivalry with Chicago, St. Louis, Dallas. Definitely makes things a little bit interesting. But we keep the two teams out in Ohio and Michigan together, as you've got the Columbus Blue Jackets and Detroit staying together. Minnesota, Chicago, and St. Louis, those 3 make up that division, so no surprises there. They're fairly close to each other, as well as the Dallas Stars, who, again, they kind of get lumped into it because, well, in a normal year, they would be in that Central Division, so it just makes sense, and they are in the same Central Time Zone. Just a little bit, location-wise, they're a little bit further away than these other teams. So now we move on to the West Coast. We've got the Pacific Western Division, led by the 3 California teams, San Jose, Los Angeles, and the Anaheim Ducks. And then you've got the 3 other outcast teams. You've got the Arizona Coyotes, the Vegas Golden Knights, and then the one team that really kind of shakes everything up, the Colorado Avalanche. Now, the Avalanche are another one of those teams that gets hit hard because of the Central Time Zone playing on the Pacific time, or playing on the, a different time zone. That is a huge loss for the Colorado Avalanche. Pretty much any road trip is going to take a couple of hours. So Colorado in this division, it's a little bit of a long shot, but based off of what we saw, you can't really throw Dallas into this division. You really can't throw in Minnesota, Chicago, St. Louis, Detroit, Columbus. So what team are you going to throw in there? Unfortunately, the Colorado Avalanche gets stuck in that based off of where their isolation is out there in Colorado. Unfortunately, any road trip is going to be far for the Avalanche. They'll probably go on a lot more bigger road trips, which again hurts them, as well as the time zone difference. Now, it could be an edge as well when they come back home because all the teams flying into Colorado are in a different time zone. Again, that could be an edge in your favor or against you, depending on how you look at it. So, again, that's the Pacific West Division. So I'm going to give you guys a quick second to look at all 5 of these divisions on the board right now. There you go. Take a quick look at that. And guys, what do you think of these divisions? Again, it's going to be a little bit different because now it brings up the question, all right, so you've got these 5 divisions, right? So now what do you do with these 5 divisions? How do you get a playoff team? How does this work? That's where things get a little bit interesting because now what you've got to do is, unfortunately, you have to lump. Well, actually, see, this is the thing. I was talking about Eastern and Western conferences. You may have to completely dismantle the conference system, which we've talked about in the past because we've seen, oh, there's an Eastern conference. You know, if this team was in the Western Conference, they would make the playoffs, but they missed the playoffs. Or if they're in the Western Conference, if they were in the East, they would have made the playoffs. It completely eliminates that factor. And this is why. So we're going to see what we talk about in other sports, mainly in baseball and in the NFL. And that is the top team in that conference automatically guaranteed a playoff spot. So let's just say Toronto, right? They win the Canada Division, they are guaranteed a playoff spot. In the Northeast Division, Boston makes the playoffs. They are the top team, they automatically get in. Tampa, Columbus, and San Jose, right? They are all in the playoffs, okay? And this is hypothetical because no way San Jose wins that division, if I'm going to be honest. But anyway, we are looking at that scenario where now you've got 5 teams in there. So now what you can do, okay, is now you could potentially have, you could do this one of 2 ways. One is you have the 3 best teams out of the rest of the league. So whoever has the most points out of the rest of the league. So you've got the top 5, and then in any conference or in any division, you could have the top 3 points with the most, the top 3 teams with the most points behind those top 5 teams. Or you could do the first 2 teams in each division make it, and then you have a 10-team playoff where maybe the top 2 teams that have the most points in the league get a bye. So now you've got an 8-team playoff system. So there's the different ways you could look at it. You could throw in wild card situations, kind of like what we saw this year with the playoff contender round before the regular playoffs. You could do something like that, or they just go with top 5 teams in each division, and then the 3 best teams in each division all competing for each other. Whoever has the most points, those top 3 teams get in. You have an 8-team playoff. How you reseed that, you have to go off of points. But then there you go. You've got your top 8 teams, and that's kind of how it goes. It makes it very difficult for some of these teams because you would think, oh, well, we have an easier division, or maybe we have a window of opportunity here. That goes out the window because these divisions are going to look very different. It's kind of a throwback to what we saw back in the early 2000s. Southeast Division, Northeast Division. You know, these are divisions they was called the Southeast Division. So it's going to look quite different. But guys, let me know in the comment section down below, what do you want to see with the NHL and its realignment plan? I know they've talked about wanting to keep the 4-division system, but I have a feeling they're going to have to throw out the conference system because especially with how these divisions will line up, I don't see how you have 4 divisions when you have the Canada Division, who is going to have 7 teams. Talk about a disadvantage. That is a disadvantage for the Canadian teams. And they already talk about how they can't win a Stanley Cup. You've just made it that much harder when, in this scenario, you have only 1 or 2 of those teams make the playoffs, let alone win a championship. So guys, let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think of that? And if you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.